No one likes commercials. So go to myfuneralhomestories.com and get collection 1 of My Funeral Home Stories for $8. All that money goes to me, the creator, not some third party. So it will actually help make seasons 4, 5, and 6 come to fruition. Help me help you not have to sit through any more of those fucking commercials. Go to myfuneralhomestories.com and get collection 1 for $8. Enjoy this episode.
The following account is real. Names have been changed to protect the living and the innocent. This journal contains language and content that may not be suitable for all listeners.
Before we jump into things, I just want to say, this is a 2-part episode that deals heavily in my personal struggles with substance and mental health issues. I know I probably don't have to say it, but these 2 episodes are pretty long-winded and may get a little weird at points. The next 2 episodes may not be your cup of tea, but it's a part of my life and an important part of who I was while I worked at the funeral home. So, with that being said, let's set the scene. It's early fall. Mary and I haven't spoken in well over a month, and I'm mentally slipping. Got it? Okay, cool. Let's get weird then. 3 days ago, I was prescribed a slew of medications by my family doctor to treat my obsessive-compulsive disorder and depression. And although the medications I'm on have been shown to have positive effects on those who need them, I'm starting to think I don't need them. Since my first day on the meds, I've felt nervous and fidgety. I can't remember the last time I ate because I haven't really been that hungry. Or perhaps I just can't remember eating because one of the 3 medications I'm taking has a side effect of short-term memory loss. The worst part of the new deal is the sleep. I'm not getting much of it, but I can't very well blame all of that on the medication. I mean, if I'm really honest with myself, Mary has a lot to do with it. Oh, and the fact that my phone is constantly vibrating or ringing to tell me to wake up and get my ass back to the funeral home. I swear to God, I'm so paranoid about missing a call from the funeral home, I've started to hear phantom rings. So that may be half of the reason I'm not sleeping. If Mary and I were still together, she would no doubt be annoyed by my recent bouts of flightiness. But thankfully, the only people I have to worry about bothering are my coworkers and canine roommate, Carter. But he's a good boy. He doesn't complain. In fact, my restlessness and irritability hasn't affected his well-being at all. He's been keeping me sane lately, even though his snoring the last couple of nights has been driving me crazy. It was almost like he was trying to rub in the fact that he was sleeping so well while I was sleeplessly hypnotized by the ceiling fan. Fun fact about Carter, nothing bothers him. He's a perfectly well-behaved little gentleman, and he can fall asleep anywhere, and everybody loves him. When I grow up, I want to be a dog. I wish Carter could talk. I ask him all the time if he understands what I'm saying, and if he can talk, I'll keep his secret. But he hasn't said anything yet, so I doubt we'll be having any meaningful conversation soon. Being more or less awake for 72 hours is fucking with me, and my thoughts are becoming a little suspect, clearly. The doctor never mentioned to me that my new medication might cause insomnia-related psychosis. That probably would have been good to know. But I guess I feel fine. My thoughts are moving at a processable speed, but they never stop coming. Whatever autopilot system my brain was running before has officially taken over and kicked into hyperdrive. I feel like a passenger inside my brain seeing thoughts enter and exit almost instantaneously. Like passing billboards on the highway. Clear and vivid for a few moments, but then gone and erased from my memory after I pass. I'm not only flummoxed by my internal chemistry, but also find myself growing exceedingly frustrated with my inability to maintain any healthy adult relationship. Girlfriends, bandmates, professors, coworkers, you name a relationship and I've put strain on it recently. But that was happening before the pills. Maybe all these thoughts have nothing to do with my new regimen of medication and I'm just losing my mind. There's something different inside me. Maybe it's maturity, or maybe it's the aneurysm that's gonna kill me. Either way, you're gonna have to bear with me here. The world's a crazy place right now, and I may be following suit. I hope I'm not crazy. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Chapter 17, The Mixed Medication Account, Part 1. Okay, so I don't know if it's just me or the 3 new pills I'm taking twice a day, but everything feels like it's constantly changing around me. I can't tell if I've been too ignorant or too arrogant to actually acknowledge the truth in that statement until now. But the more I've opened my eyes, the more I've realized just how much this world is turning into a place I barely recognize. I suppose I'm guilty of changing too, but have I really changed? Or am I just growing up and realizing the same thing that everyone else is? Life is impossible to win or predict with any amount of confidence. So what the fuck are we so stressed out about? Even if you're able to quote-unquote win at life, what's the reward? Lying in an expensive box in your most expensive clothes in front of all your friends and family while they make comments like, "He just doesn't look the same," or "Why do his hands look like that?" I guess the bottom line is I am an empirically different person now than when I started working at the funeral home. Shit. I mean, I was 13 when I actually started working here. It's been 8 years so far. I can barely believe that. Where did middle and high school go? And why did my memory get so bad? Things were so much easier and less complicated then. Doing the math in my head, which I probably shouldn't be doing, I figure that's over 70,000 hours of living that just blew right by me. Why is it so hard now to remember more than just tidbits here and there? I was there, wasn't I? I mean, seriously, how did I lose track of so much time? And what do I have to show for the last 8 years? Memories, a couple of drum sets, and the beginning stages of alcoholism. So I guess that's something. I mean, I certainly haven't saved any money. I'm so dumb. But we'll talk about my fiscal irresponsibility later. I can't tell if it's my brain or something external happening with our planet, but time is moving faster, right? Is that something that happens when you get older or something that happens when you just start to slip mentally? Either way, I think it's safe to say the train has left the station. You know, they say that every 7 years or so, all the tissues in your body are regenerated and replaced by new tissue. I don't know who they actually is, and I'm not sure that's entirely true, but if it is, I'm hoping to get out of here before the next 7 years of tissue I'm growing is too tainted by the funk of the funeral home to be anything productive in our society. The thing is, I'm not sure I have an escape plan. I can barely keep my thoughts together long enough to write this, let alone start to plan a career and the rest of my life away from the funeral industry. Why is it so hard to think about the future? Every time I start, I just stop immediately. I spent the afternoon not focusing on anything particularly important. Instead, I mostly just drifted off staring out my bedroom window, thinking about what it must be like for regular folks to stumble upon a dead body in the wild. Something about these pills I'm taking is leading my brain down interestingly dark avenues. Do regular people freak out when they find a dead body, or no? I guess it depends on the condition of the body and the age of the person doing the finding. What do you think their brain goes through when they realize the person they're looking at is no longer a person? The only reason I'm curious is because I'm never there to see that. I'm always there afterwards, once everyone and everything has settled down a bit. Truthfully, I'm not sure how I'd react to stumbling across a dead body on my daily walk through the neighborhood. I guess I'd probably just call 911, right? I mean, after making sure not to touch or disturb anything. Surprisingly, I wouldn't be doing this to preserve the crime scene at all. I just would want to make sure my ass is covered as the person who found the body. I've read too much true crime to be a victim of an overzealous detective looking to quickly close a difficult case. My primary concern after alerting authorities would be convincing said authorities that I had nothing to do with the dead body and merely stumbled across it on a leisurely morning walk. I'm fairly certain my paranoid approach would seem suspect to the investigating officers, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I know who Damien Eccles is, and I don't have time for any of that. I don't know what would be worse, sitting in a jail for a crime you didn't commit or dying swiftly and suddenly in the prime of your life. I used to tell myself I wasn't afraid to die and played it off like I was mostly indifferent, but now I'm realizing I do care, and I'm scared. Very scared. But only out of selfish reasons. I need my friends, family, and dog to live as long as possible because I can't imagine a life without them leading to any healthy or happy consequence. My loner lifestyle has gotten a lot more lonely in the past couple months. I miss Mary. I thought we were in it for the long haul. I truly believed I was going to marry her and she'd be the one holding my hand, seeing me off into the great beyond when it's my time. But now I'm not so sure my future will be so pleasant. So when it's over for me, it's over. Cremate me, bury me, liquefy me, shoot me out into space. It won't matter. I'm dead. Do what you want. Grieve how you want. I'll either be too preoccupied by heaven or drifting into a black void of nothingness with no consciousness or no awareness. I'm imagining a place with no clouds, no angels, no thoughts. Just nothing. Forever. Ugh. Sorry, that was pretty dark. But the thought of an afterlife of stillness is reassuring, albeit the polar opposite of what I was taught in Catholic schools. I guess what I'm trying to say is I won't really care about a solid mahogany casket or what tie bar I'm wearing when you bury me. You know, the pageantry of the modern funeral isn't really to celebrate the dead. It's just something the living do to make themselves feel better. Why am I thinking things like this? I thought I was taking antidepressants. Now, I feel like I may be repeating myself here from a thought I had a few years back, but if it's worth repeating, it may be true. Death is always just around the corner for everyone. Some of us are just on a longer street than others. Or at least that's what I'm starting to gather. When death hits close to home unexpectedly, it's surprising how true that sentiment feels. A buddy of mine that gave me a joint at a Fish concert last summer died a week ago. He was a good guy. I didn't know he fucked with any of that hard shit, though. We weren't really that close or anything, but when you get a phone call that someone you casually know and have partied with in the past was found dead in his living room, you have a tendency to take pause and reevaluate all of your life decisions, at least until you move on to something else to think about. I wonder what the invisible ticking clock inside my body is down to now. Work at the funeral home hasn't been awful lately, but it also hasn't been as satisfying as it once was. I loved working here when I first started. I felt like I was doing something great. Something so much more evolved than my uncivilized, uncultured, mouth-breathing 13-year-old friends without jobs. It was awesome at first. I was learning and experiencing the world in so many ways that my friends hadn't. I felt special. I felt proud to help those grieving through the loss of a loved one. I left work every day feeling as if I had fulfilled a purpose in my life serving the families that came into the funeral home. It was rewarding to realize a hard day or night's work could make such a lasting impact and impression on someone else's life. But that changed. Honestly, I feel more like a garbage man lately than an employee at one of the most distinguished funeral homes in town. And it isn't because I lost respect for the dead. Not at all. I guess I've just realized that all bodies, dead and even some of the living, are hazardous and potentially infectious waste. All people, living and dead, gross me out. So I'm not sure I have the right attitude to be a compassionate and caring professional for much longer. Side note, it's been 45 days since I cut myself working on that AIDS patient. I haven't been counting or anything. I just got my most recent blood test back and it's positive. Well, technically it's negative, but I feel pretty positive knowing that I'm not going to die from complication of AIDS that I accidentally contracted. And so as it goes, with that clean bill of health, I guess it's time to officially jump back into the dating pool. But I haven't felt like dating or doing anything lately. I couldn't imagine feigning interest in a person long enough to convince them to sleep with me in my current state. I couldn't even imagine having a conversation with me. I'm exhausting, or so I've been told on several occasions recently. Ned said the other day that I didn't seem very approachable while working a visitation, and at first I was offended by Ned's claim. Is my attitude really that bad that Ned feels like he needs to say something? But the more I thought about it, the more I think it was just his way of saying he's concerned about me without actually asking about my well-being. That's just Ned's old-school Irish Catholic Midwest fear of showing affection or concern for another man. And all of Ned's weirdness aside, I appreciated the sentiment. It's funny how everyone else notices there's something wrong with you before you do. I haven't talked to Mary in over a month since we got into a pretty intense screaming match in a Panda Express parking lot when we tried to meet for a civil lunch. Let me be clear, before you make any assumptions about Mary's character, I am 75 to 90% the problem here. Sure, Mary may have been cheating, but what was I doing that led her to that? And the answer to that question? So many things. But I never cheated. I'm currently in room 8 at Havana Tanning right down the street from my house. Now, before you lecture me about the negative effects of tanning, save it. I signed the paper when I came in. I know what I'm doing. Plus, it makes me feel good. And I like having a year-round golden brown tan. Sue me. It's 9:45 and I have about 5 minutes left on my bed. The salon closes at 10. I don't normally like to come this close to closing time, but I can't sleep, so I might as well relax for 20 minutes and get a tan. So, other than tanning, what else are you doing with your free time, Grant? Well, I'm happy you asked. I spend my days moping around the funeral home and my nights off call, some on call, surrounding myself with drums, booze, and countless obsessive behaviors like exercising or renting every single horror film from Hollywood Video in alphabetical order. I'm up to the R's now. I'm lost and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Everyone made such a big fucking deal about going to college after high school, but here I am 2 short semesters away from graduating with a useless piece of paper from a community college that says I may or may not be an okay musician with a well-rounded knowledge of general studies. So what the fuck do I do with that? I think I made a mistake. I should have just gone to mortuary school. I could have had a sure thing here. And I know my dad is itching to get out of the business. The people just aren't the same. The employees and the clientele. Everyone just seems on edge now. Maybe they always were, I just never took notice. Feeling how I feel now, I can't say I blame my dad for wanting out. He's been at it every day for 40 years. I've really only been working here on and off for 8 years, and I'm already looking for the emergency exit. Thinking about my dad's career, I think about my own. What do you think I'll be doing in 40 years? Decomposing, most likely. I'd heard the phrase before, but I didn't know what burning the candle at both ends was until my wick was already lit. So I need to slow down or I'm bound to hit a wall. Or a mailbox. The song I was listening to, 40's Theme by Humphreys McGee, ends almost precisely as the tanning bed turns off. I lay there for a bit, enjoying the peace and quiet. Laying in a pool of my own sweat, slowly opening the lid and feeling the cold air swirl around my body. The stillness and the island scent of the room is calming. I could fall asleep right now. I feel my eyeballs sinking into my skull as I breathe in and out. The phone rings. Fuck. I sit up quickly, not realizing the lid isn't completely open, and smack my head. Fuck! I could scream right now. I grab my phone and look at the caller ID. It's Ned. Remembering the conversation we had about my attitude, I decide to throw Ned a curveball when I answer the phone. Because, the only way I'm going to get a better attitude is by having a better attitude. So I answer. Yo, Ned, what's up, big dog? There's a moment of silence. Okay, Grant, we have a death call. Meet me at the funeral home. I hang up and head home to change. My suit's gonna smell like tanning lotion. I'm okay with that. "20 minutes later, Ned and I pull up and stop in front of 2 brown county sheriff's cars blocking the 2-lane road to northbound traffic. I used to ride my bike on this road before we moved. I'm squinting to look up the road to recognize anything that resembles a car accident, but I don't see anything. Well, I see a dead body under a couple remote investigation lights and some debris in the road, but I don't see a car. It's been drizzling for the last half hour or so it's hard to make out detail from a distance because of how damp and shiny the road is. Was this a hit and run, Ned? Ned pulls gloves out of the center console and throws me a pair. Nah, not a hit and run that I'm aware of. Motorcycle accident. A motorcycle accident, huh? Now we're talking. I look to see if I can make out anything resembling a motorcycle. I see 2 wheels attached to something, but it doesn't look like any motorcycle I've ever seen. I feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, thinking about what we're going to see. I put the gloves in my pocket and get out of the van. It's been a few years since we've had a motorcycle accident. It seems like all the other funeral homes have been up on the call sheet with the PD when the really good calls come in. 2 weeks ago, a funeral director from one of the other funeral homes told me while we were waiting for our coaches at the car wash that he and Lindsay, the funeral director who used to work for us, went out on a car versus motorcycle call that had 2 bodies cut in half in the middle of a busy intersection midday. The guy telling me the story made the scene sound Tarantino-esque. That week I had 3 1 a.m. hospice call wake-ups, so to say I was jealous while listening to his story is quite an understatement. Also, I couldn't help but ask about Lindsay. I guess she's good. The drizzle turns into moderate rain as soon as we're outside the car. Looks like we're gonna get a little wet. Ned and I pull the stretcher out of the back. An officer gets out of one of the cars in full rain gear and heads our direction. Evening, gents. How you feeling? Ned says hello and I wave from my end of the stretcher and say, "A little wet, but good. What's going on here?" I'm a bit perkier than I expected to be given my exhaustion level. Maybe the tanning bed woke me up a bit, or maybe it's the fact that I'm about to see something totally fucked. Probably a little bit of both. The officer points down past the car to where the lights are. We've got one dead, 24-year-old male. Name, Nathan Getz. There's no date of birth or next of kin available. He was just cruising down the road at a pretty high clip and smashed headfirst into a brick mailbox. And of course, he wasn't wearing a helmet. Not that that would have made much of a difference. His brain is actually half a block down the street from where the crash site is. Holy shit, how fast was he going? I asked the officer. Definitely over 100. We think he was out racing someone and lost control. That's what these motorcycle fellas have been using this road for lately. We get nightly complaints. I'm imagining what it's like to be the person who was racing Nathan. Do you suppose he stopped to check on his opponent or just kept moving when he realized there was big trouble? If someone I was racing slammed into a mailbox and their brain flew out of their skull, I'd probably take off too. Just think about that 911 call. Hello, 911. Yeah, my friend crashed his motorcycle into a mailbox and I think he's dead. Okay, how did the accident happen? Was he racing? No. It would be hard to convince the responding officer that the body sprawled out on the road had nothing to do with the motorcycle you're riding and the one completely deformed in the middle of the street. God, could you imagine living with that? Your friend is killed racing you, and out of fear for the repercussions, you duck out to escape going to jail for a racing-related fatality. Every day, that guy will wake up and think about this. His dead motorcycle pal taken out by a mailbox. Ned and I walked the stretcher past the barrier created by the police cars. The squad car lights are still on. The blue and red flashing strobes cover the scene in a really aesthetically pleasing way. The rain lets back up to a drizzle as we walk toward the body. It's chilly tonight. Brisk. Brisk might be the better word. The air feels refreshing against my freshly tanned and hot skin. I breathe in through my nose. It smells like rain and gasoline. We parked the stretcher next to Nathan's body just down a ways from what was once a really nice mailbox. The house I grew up in had one like this. Red brick with cement holding it intact. Nothing too fancy, just your classic run-of-the-mill brick mailbox. Anyway, I crashed into it once on my bicycle doing like 8 miles per hour and walked with a limp for 2 weeks. Hitting the mailbox that day any faster would have probably broken me in half. And to think this motherfucker in front of me was doing 100 with no helmet. Based on the position of the body, I'm assuming that Nathan's limp and bloody body must have flipped in the air a couple of times after impacting the mailbox. At 45 miles per hour, the speed limit on this particular street, Nathan would have flipped in the air like a rag doll. So at his speed, it must have been quite the post-mortem acrobatic exhibition. Ned hands me the plastic biohazard bag and says, "Here, for the brain and other stuff. We'll bag him up here first, and you can go grab the brain." He's smiling as he says this. Ned knows how I feel about scooping vital organs off of pavement. I enjoy the intensity of the experience. Ned unfolds the disaster pouch and unzips its large opening. At my feet is Nathan. To my right is the mailbox. Well, what's left of it. And to Ned and I's left sits Nathan's motorcycle. Let's start there. I don't really know anything about motorcycles, so I'll do my best here. I know it's Japanese, an import of some sort. It looks like a Kawasaki or something. That's a brand, right? The officer used the term crotch rocket, and that seems appropriate. I mean, it's a rocket with wheels, right? In its perfect condition, it's 2 wheels strapped to an absurdly powerful engine and mounted on a steel frame and covered in fiberglass. But in its current condition, it's just pieces. All the fiberglass pieces have shattered and are covering the road. The frame is bent to the point where the 2 wheels are almost touching, and both mirrors are snapped off and the handlebars are bent to shit. The only force that can fuck up steel and fiberglass like this is speed. Nathan and his bike obviously had more of that than they can handle. It stopped raining now. I hear an impatient driver honking his horn behind the roadblock. I direct my attention to the mailbox now. It looks like our guy hit this sucker right in the middle. I turn and look at the road leading up to the mailbox behind me. No skid marks. which either means this accident happened too quick for Nathan to react, or Nathan intended to drive into this mailbox. Suicide by vehicle happens more than you think, and since we don't know for sure that he was racing, it's a possibility. Wow, how am I so mentally focused right now? 2 hours ago, I barely had the attention span to tie my shoes. Now I'm in full-blown crime scene forensic mode. You know, maybe these drugs I'm taking are actually doing something. Now that we're closer, the investigation lights make it easy to see that some of the bricks from the mailbox have been reduced to dust. Nathan's impact must have sounded like a bomb going off. Ned and I put on our gloves and move into position over the motorcyclist's body. Ned's at his head, I'm at the feet. Actively observing from where I'm standing, I first take in the man's clothing. His outfit isn't anything I would wear, but it does seem appropriate for someone who just died in a motorcycle accident. Vans, fat tongue skate shoes, Jinko jean shorts, and a white tank top. Actually, it's more of a red tank top, but it wasn't when Nathan put it on this morning. Albeit kind of a crummy outfit, his clothes aren't nearly as fascinating as his body. I imagine most of the bones in his upper body have been shattered or at least broken beyond any functionality. His body's not as compressed as I thought it would be hearing head-on motorcycle accident with mailbox. You know, I'm no scientist, but I think it may have something to do with the inertia from the accident that flipped his body end over end at a super high rate of speed. I guess that high-speed flipping can offset the crunching of the impact. I look down around the mailbox and the motorcycle for blood, but it's hard to see because the road is so damp now. If it weren't raining right now, I'm sure we'd be able to see blood everywhere. And I'm sure with the way he was flipping around during the accident, the street would look like a spin art studio. His body looks devastated, but kinda normal, considering the kind of accident he was just in. I can see deep cuts and compound fractures in both arms, but the real sight to behold is this man's head and face. The bones in his face are non-existent. I'm sure they're in there somewhere, but they're probably pulverized into a shapeless, bony mash. There's a large, disgusting void running from the center of his head down his face. Knowing that this guy is my age, I'd normally take a closer look at his face to see if I may or may not have run into him at some point. But tonight it's useless. Any parts of the man's face that would be recognizable are covered in blood, dirt, and cement rash. The rest of his face and head, the unrecognizable parts, just look like flesh that was once a face folded over itself without any defining features. Just skin flaps, hair, and blood. Well, closed casket, I think to myself. I've seen my dad do reconstruction wonders in the past, but I would say Nathan here is a lost cause. Ned and I reach down to pick up his body. I grab one of his legs by the ankle, and what I feel makes my stomach flip. His leg is a soft, mushy mess. Whatever structural integrity this man's legs had before the accident is all but gone. His leg bones are shattered, or at least it feels that way. We move his body into the disaster pouch without incident. Ned says, "All right, I'm gonna go talk to the officer and get some more info. Grab the brain and whatever else is up on the road and toss it in the pouch." "Okay," I say to Ned, pulling the bag out of my pocket. Remember when I said I wasn't satisfied working at the funeral home? It's not because of nights like this. I'm literally about to pick a human brain up off the road. No horror movie from Hollywood Video can be this stimulating. I walk down the road to where I see a small pile of dark matter laying underneath the investigation lights. I get closer and it's at my feet. It's kind of surreal to see someone's brain smashed and bloody on pavement next to a $175 pair of Cole Haan black tasseled loafers. Yeah, that's right. I'm wearing Cole Haan tasseled loafers out on a police call. It's how I roll. I bend over and open the bag, examining the brain before me. It's kind of weird to see a brain outside of someone's body just laying on the cement like this, in such a completely unusual form. The impact of hitting the pavement caused it to break apart and have a much more flattened shape than one would expect. Holding the bag open with my left hand, I reach down and slide my hand between Nathan's brain and the cement. I squeeze my hand closed and grab most of the chunks of brain in one handful. It's not as firm and spongy as I expected. It's actually more flimsy and delicate than any brain I've ever held in the past. Probably from the 100-mile-per-hour impact and subsequent run-in with the road. It really feels like I'm holding bits of raw, tenderized sirloin in one of those ultra-thin, cheap plastic sandwich bags. I feel a cold, wet sensation through my glove. Before I slide it into the bag, I take a closer look. It's funny how the one thing solely responsible for keeping you alive is also the thing that tells you it's a good idea to make potentially life-threatening decisions, like racing your motorcycle on a county road or enjoying a trip to the tanning salon every now and again. I drop the pieces of Nathan's brain in the bag with a satisfying plastic thump sound. I feel absolutely no tension or anxiety in this moment. This was my purpose, and I've fulfilled my obligation tonight. There are no other thoughts in my mind, just quiet. I throw the smaller bag with Nathan's brain in the disaster pouch with the rest of his body and tell Ed, "All right, big dog, all done. Let's go home."
It's past my bedtime,
I say with a yawn. It's 11:55 now. I've been home for about 10 minutes. I ended up popping by Hollywood Video and returning the overdue copy of Funny Games that's been sitting in my front seat for the last 2 days. I've been home long enough to take a shower and wash the funk from the tanning bed off my body and run a razor over my face. Carter and I are spooning in the center of my king-size bed. I'm the big spoon, he's the little spoon. We do this every night until one or both of us decide it's time to move into positions more conducive for restful sleep. He likes his space, and so do I. Plus, he runs so goddamn hot that if I do fall asleep like this, I'll wake up a sweaty mess in about 2 hours and won't be able to fall back asleep. Carter's already passed out. I'm jealous. But my brain has settled down. I can feel my breathing slow down as well. The bones and muscles in my neck are melting into my pillow and bedding. Oh my god, it's happening. You know that feeling when you absolutely know with complete certainty that in mere moments you'll be asleep and the world will be turned off for a few hours? That's how I feel right now. It only took 3 days on my medication for me to feel as good as I feel right now, and it has nothing to do with my new meds and everything to do with the fact that I'm actually about to get 7 solid hours of sleep. Well, maybe it does have something to do with the meds. I am a shell of a person without sleep. I hope I don't dream tonight. I just want nothingness. Completely relaxed, I kiss the back of Carter's head and whisper, "Good night. I love you, buddy." I can hear the wind blowing the leaves in the trees outside my window. It's nature's sound machine lulling me off to sleep. I breathe in. I breathe out. I can feel my eyes sinking into the back of my skull. Here it comes. Sleep is finally here. Fuck! Another call? Really? I'm instantly irritated by the fact that I'm not going to get any sleep tonight and have another errand, aka body, to run around town. The phone rings again. I can't keep doing this, I think to myself as I reach over to my nightstand to answer my phone. I look at the caller ID before I flip it open. It's Mary. Confused, having not talked to her in over a month, I answer. "Hello? Hello?" She's crying. "Are you okay?" I say as Carter lifts his head up and looks at me out of annoyance. There's silence on the line for a few seconds. "Grant, I need to see you. Tonight." My heart starts racing. What does she want? Why does she need to see me tonight? I look at the clock. It's 12:15. God damn it. Looks like I'm not getting any sleep tonight. Well, there's always tomorrow. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Join me next week for the conclusion of this story and the season finale of My Funeral Home Stories Season 3. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please rate and review wherever you listen. And don't forget to follow me on social media, @Pomo and Kitch. Thanks for listening.